Some people design experiences you see. Bobby Chang designs experiences you feel. As VP of Design and Business Development for Ark Dynamics, he's reimagining what motion simulation can do, not just for entertainment, but for emotional resonance and therapeutic breakthroughs. Today, we meet for the first time to explore how the fusion of movement and emotion might just change the way we play, heal, and connect.
Thank you so much, Bobby Chang, for joining me here on AwareNow to share this space and to share your story. Thank you so much.
Well, I thank you for hosting me and allowing me to share this story, right? So it's a great way to start. I love it.
Awesome. Well, let's get started this way.
Yeah.
To say that fact of the matter is we just met, but I have this feeling that this conversation is going to completely change how I think about or thought about gaming forever. I guess I'd like to start with this question for you, Bobby. It's, what was the moment you realized that motion could carry emotion?
So as we're developing this platform, and we're gonna do the world premiere launch in the beginning of September, so like in a few weeks.
Let's pause here. Bobby said, as we're developing this platform. What is this platform? It is a motion simulation platform capable of doing what no other can. Let's continue.
Right? So we're still constantly tuning and dialing in the product and also tuning the vehicles to the game, because it's very specific to each car and each track. And so I had a few experiences where the tuning was on and you come off and you're on a high, like you were an alpha, because when the tuning's on, everything is syncing. So you're synced to the platform, this platform syncing to the game, and everything just feels like you're in the flow state. You're an alpha, right? Because you're driving to the track and you're trying to fine tune every lap you go. And when it's tuned properly, you come off and you're on a high. Everybody sees it. You're just like in this like glazed look, right? It's athletes. You see, when you're around athletes like that, right?
Yeah.
Now, when the tuning is off, you come off totally different like vibe. You come off and you're frustrated and you're like anxiety. And so what was the difference between the two tunings, right? And I mean, you can see like one creates this extreme high emotion on this side and one extreme emotion on this side. And for gamers, having lag is the worst thing ever, because you basically are just standing there and people are killing you. You're getting shot.
Right.
You come on, you just want to throw your equipment, and just like it's so frustrating, right?
Right.
So when we're tuning, because the fact that our setup allows us to move faster than human perception.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is our vestibular starts to pick up things at 10 milliseconds, right?
Okay.
So it has to, because it has to keep you balanced. So that's the quickest, most sensitive sensor you have on your body for detecting motion.
Okay.
Yeah? So we move at 1.3 milliseconds. So we can do things before you can even perceive that has happened, right? So we can tune it so we're just ahead of your expectation. And when you do that, there's an excitement that comes out of that, because everything is just a hair, but you're like visually you're not going to pick that up. Your body picks it up because it's your motion detection system, right? Which is your vestibular, and then we have 240,000 sensors in our body, right? So you're now combining because we're moving the whole body, and now going ahead of you just a little bit. You get that excitement and you get that feeling, because not only that, but you're sitting on top of a platform that has the capabilities to send frequencies and vibrations into you,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when
Mm-hmm.
those all sync up, you come off and you're in a high. So I look at that as like, well, that means that we could put anybody on this in some type of motion thing and get them in that alpha state.
Yeah.
Now, what caused the frustration when there was the tuning was off was there were we tuned it so it was just behind you what you would expect.
Mm.
And just that little bit, and we're talking about like so much, we're talking about milliseconds in nanometers, right? Because we
Yeah.
can move this thing moves in such precision because the standard in the industry was at 14-bit resolution and
Uh-huh.
fidelity. We bumped it up to 21-bit. So that's the difference of having a smartphone and a dumb phone. That's the
That's
that that's the type of resolution that you have. So what I'm talking about now with this nanoseconds and in milliseconds and nanometers, we're talking about playing in this really fine space, but your body picks that up. It has to.
yeah.
It has to in order to keep you balanced and go, what was that? Okay, cool. I get that. That felt real. That we're in sync, right? Your
Yeah.
body, your visual and your motion sensor they have to sync up.
Yeah.
When they don't sync up, that's when you people have like motion sickness.
Mm-hmm.
Like when your visual and doesn't sync up with your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you get into a boat, the boat starts moving and then your eye starts tracking, but
Yeah.
there's a delay. And that's where the motion sickness can come from, right? So it's similar to like VR.
Uh-huh.
If the graphics is not tracking properly, or like you're sensing something, but it's not aligning, it's not syncing up.
Yeah.
That's when people who put a VRs get motion sickness. And it happens like a lot. Right?
Interesting.
So when you talk about that type of experience, so a lot of this is discovery. We're not in neuroscience. We're not in, this type. We're engineers, physicists, and designers, and we're putting this together because we're like, wow, but there's something interesting here because of our system.
So let's pause a moment there, not to interrupt, but for people, because I know, I mean, again, you and I have just met, but I did a little bit of research. But for those who are like, who is this guy? What is he talking about? Talk about the this you keep referring to for someone who's
Okay.
just tuning in. What is this that you're working
Okay.
on?
So we're working on a motion simulation platform. And this platform allows us to move whatever's on top. So right now we could put a racing chassis for driving, so that people who are doing training for F1, people who are doing iRacing, there's like 50 million sim racers now, right? So people who go online to race other people on real tracks with real cars. So it's just taking racing, the whole racing industry, and just growing it. And
Mm.
our platform, the technology behind it is there's so many innovations, and we've got patents already on this thing. So it's protected. But the beauty of what we're doing is we want to bring this out as a development platform, a developer's kit, so other developers can take this and build on top of it, or do whatever they want with it. Because we're at a point now in our evolution of shared experiences. We start off with like the radio and then the video, and then we're
Yeah.
sharing music, with internet, we're able to share things with each other, right? You
Mhm.
send things to each other and you're like, oh wow, you can almost be there, right?
Yeah.
Now, the next evolution of that is incorporating motion,
Mm.
because we're already maxed out. We're in VR, right? So we're already maxed out, but we haven't addressed the rest of the body and how the body can pick up the motion cues and create an even more immersive experience, right? So this platform, right now, you can put a racing chassis, you could put a flight chassis, but I see that we have amazing content engines and Unreal Engine and Unity, which are being used for like movies and games, and they create like perfect real environments, and they give off physics. So we can take that and then create experiences with that. So if someone wanted to create an experience for like horseback riding, right?
Yeah.
We can create the physical part, put it on the chassis, and you can simulate the motion exactly. So you can learn how to ride a horse before you even get on a horse, which
Right.
the first part of getting on a horse is dangerous because it's like scary for you, and the horse picks it up, and the horse is like, "Ooh, what's going on?" But surfing, put a surfboard on the platform,
Yeah.
we can simulate water like perfectly. It'll feel
Mhm.
exactly like you're paddling out to the wave, and you can practice getting on without being pummeled by the wave. I
Right.
used to surf and I was like, that was a horrible learning experience.
Yeah.
Like trying to dive underneath you don't know it hits you, and so that first part. But
Yeah.
if you start to get some of this muscle memory, right? Because this is
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Yep.
We're talking about training the subconscious, a pattern that the body needs to create the muscle memory, and then the subconscious takes over because it's like, I got that. I know, I know that, right? And
Yeah.
so I'll give you an example. Max Verstappen talks about this, and he's like top of F1, like he's one of the top drivers, right? And he speaks outwardly about using the sim as a training tool.
Mm.
So he's like, this is how I train. He's like, there's certain corners that I think I might be able to have an advantage if I take this line, but it's too dangerous to test it out during
Uh,
racing. So he tests it out in sim at a higher speed. So his reaction and his subconscious is picking this up at a higher speed. And then when he slows it down, it's like, oh, I got this, right?
that's
It's like
amazing.
similar to Tom Brady.
Uh,
Tom Brady used to watch game film
mhm.
at 1.5 or 2, somewhere. I think he fluctuated. So he watched it at that, it was faster,
Uh,
like 1.5 times faster than normal, or 2 times faster. So when it came game time, everything felt like it was in slow motion.
that's so wild.
That's that's training the subconscious, right?
Yeah.
And that's muscle memory. And that's what we're talking about with F1 being the elite of the athletes, because they have to be under that pressure. So
Yeah.
then you start to take, the different things in different sports, and you go, okay, what do we have in common?
Yeah.
And then what can we do to train for the high performance side of things?
Yeah.
Right? So that's where the motion platform became interesting, because not only are you talking about racing, so it's proving it can perform at that highest level. So
Right.
anything that you do, so if you want to do therapy for, like the older generation because they're not moving very much,
Hmm.
well, that's going to easily perform for them because it doesn't have to do the things that it doesn't have to pull the G's that it has to do for the racers.
Yeah.
Like the G forces on this thing you feel it, and you feel the weight of the car, the movement of the weight shifting. So you're inside this mass that this platform is controlling,
Yeah.
right? So and this platform can go 6 degrees of freedom, so it can go in any direction you want, right? So all those experiences we're talking about with surfing,
Yeah.
with horseback riding, they're free form. You're on a fluid, you're in fluid dynamics, right? Or you're on a horse that is like capable of,
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much power behind that, right? So
Yeah.
so this is that is what I was referring to as a motion platform, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of capabilities for it, but most people haven't seen what we've seen because of our performance.
Hmm.
Most people haven't. Their platforms don't performance. They don't perform at the milliseconds that we're performing in, right?
Hmm.
Which, like I was mentioning before, was like, well, your vestibular, it responds and reacts in 10 milliseconds,
Yeah.
which is super fast. I mean, you're talking about 1 second, and in that you're dividing that by
Right.
by 1,000, and then you're just in the 10 milliseconds. Now we move at 1.3 milliseconds, which allows us to then move faster than you perceive,
That's fascinating.
right? So when that happens, all of a sudden we can actually be ahead of you and also then we can actually simulate G-forces in a different way. So it,
Wild.
your body picks up those forces instantly. It has to, because then if someone pushed you from behind,
Yeah.
your body, your vestibular picked it up and goes and fires all these,
Yeah.
commands to different
Yeah.
parts of your body to make sure that you can catch yourself, right?
Yeah.
And as we get older, our vestibular starts to get slower, and
Yeah.
that's why people who are aging fall more.
Yeah.
They fall more because their system is not, it's either they're not picking it up or it's not firing to correct it.
Yeah.
So how is there a way to train that in people so that doesn't deteriorate?
Yeah.
And the
That's
answer is yes, of course.
That's fascinating to me because we know the body and the mind work as one. There is that connection.
Yes.
While they're separate facets of us, they work together. When you mentioned just a moment ago about people who are aging and getting older and things slowing down, I think about myself. I was diagnosed with MS 5 years ago, and there are things, for example, you said surfing, like, my gosh, how I'd love to get up on a surfboard, but my balance is for shit now. So, I mean, that's out of the question. But something like this might allow me to have an experience like that, or perhaps even rewire things so my body can remember and retrain my brain. Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? This has the
Yes.
potential?
Yes. That's where my mind would just went because it's exactly what you're talking about. Because most of the time, and I'll bring it to this level, right? If we put a chair on top of this platform and like call it a gaming chair,
Yeah.
for all the kids who are passively gaming, now they're sitting on a platform that can um, it can test them. It can actually train them like nothing else. Because there's about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, there was all this like thing around vibration plates.
Mhm.
Okay. And now you see them in gyms, and you see them all over. And the way that works, it's at a frequency between 30 and 50 hertz. So it has a nice oscillation. You can feel it. And what that does is actually starts to train all the little muscles. Because when you work out, you're working on the big muscles, but you want all the reaction muscles and all the little muscles that support the big muscles to be working. So this platform that's underneath you can actually do that, because we go up to 1,000 hertz, right?
Mhm.
So any vibration, any frequency in that range, we can accommodate. In
Mhm.
fact, we can actually start to, like in music, you have things in harmony. So you have this range is harmony with this range. So now you can have movements that are in sync with each other in terms of like their harmony, right? In
Yeah.
terms of like their frequency. So when you put a kid on here and they play 12 hours a day, and and you can actually create a whole routine so that when they're sitting on there, they can actually have the platform help them to go into alpha. So when they're playing, they're even better, right? Because
Yeah.
when they're playing, their brain waves are going up and down, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're in alpha and everything's syncing and everything's like firing, and
Yeah.
sometimes everything just feels wrong. Well, maybe he just pushes a button, goes, "Get me back in alpha," and the vibration of the alpha wave starts coming up
Wow.
through the platform and starts to get him into alpha. And it happens for the racers. We're
Yeah.
working with the racing team here at the UT in Texas, here in Austin,
Okay.
and the kids never been on a platform like this. And I could put a camera on them, and you can see within 30 seconds, everything shit. They go into alpha. They literally go into alpha, and you see the zone, right? Their eyes just like,
Yeah.
right? Everything just relaxes, and they're just flowing, and you're watching them driving. Is like, wow. I, when you're watching, you're not an alpha, so you're just watching with your criteria, and they're just driving,
Yeah.
and they're driving faster than you can perceive, because you're just like, wow, they're flowing. So it's a fast lap, and you're just like, this is insane. all the kids get on within 30 seconds, same thing, because they're used to driving, right? So they're used to getting into alpha and going into the zone because they have to in order to go fast.
Yeah.
So, but to see it happen within 30 seconds, you're like, wow, that's insane.
That is
Right? So
wild.
yeah, imagine you can put a alpha, like people love meditation and doing that. So you sit there and you're just like, okay, I gotta clear my mind. I gotta do this. I got, don't think. So you're going through your routine.
Yeah.
Well, if I create a sequence where you got on and you sat into it, and within a minute, you're just flowing, right?
Yeah.
Because you put somebody in a zero gravity, angle position, and of course they're more relaxed,
Yeah.
right, in that position. Now you do a sequence, right, and you have it move
Yeah.
in the alpha ranges, and you the frequency and the vibrations coming into you, right, and we as humans have naturally evolved that way.
Uh,
Like we pick up on frequencies, right? And the biggest frequency is the Earth's heartbeat. The Schumann resonance is 7.83. They measured it, and it's all around. It's created by lightning and the wind and everything else that's in our atmosphere and in our ionosphere, right?
mhm.
And we pick up on that. That's we tune into that all the time. So when you say, "Oh yeah, I go out to nature and it feels amazing in nature," well, yeah, because there's no disturbance. There's nothing. There's no buildings. There's nothing that's causing other frequencies like radio towers or Wi-Fi tower. There's no other
Mhm.
things disturbing that frequency that we were evolved for billions of years to.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why when we go out and we have that connection and we're on the earth and it just feels amazing,
Yeah.
right? But when you go into a city and where you're everything is like that frequency is 7.83, so it's a super low frequency. Well, the Wi-Fi towers and the 5G towers, they're all in the millions and billions of hertz.
Yeah.
So it's of course going to disturb, and so that's why people have all kinds of different things because they're just losing that connection, right?
Yeah.
That's at a big level, right?
Mhm.
Now on a social level, right, there's a group of people and they're having fun. Well, they're giving off a frequency that when you join
Mhm.
them, you sync up to that,
Yeah.
right? Or a not so good group, and you're like, oh, no, thank you. And you turn away because you don't want that frequency, right?
Yeah.
Because and that's what crowds do, right? And that's why we
Yeah.
have festivals and Woodstock and Burning Man and all these organic things or like when the Beatles brought their yogi to the US in the 60s and he's created the transcendental meditation. That's
Mhm.
all about like, can we resonate this frequency outwards so it's so people can like pick up on it and feel it. And
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
yoga, you do the ohms and you're trying to sync up the frequency, and sometimes it syncs up beautifully, or the sound bowls or things like
Yeah.
that, right? Or
Yeah.
even just a simple wine glass with a little bit of water in there. It's just like there's something
Yeah.
vibrating and you're picking up on that. And when it's good frequency, it feels amazing. When it's
Mhm.
bad frequency, everything about you just feels disturbed. Like, why?
Yeah.
What's happening here? Why am I
Mhm.
feeling this way, right?
Yeah, no,
So,
it's for sure. Well, and that's a really good point, right? Like how you just said that the fact that there's this transference of energy, of frequency, like you're saying. And I never thought about it that way. Like, why do we have festivals? Why do we like festivals? Why do we like being in? It's a same thing. I mean, if you see someone smiling, like and laughing, you can't help but laugh yourself, even if you have no idea why they're smiling or why they're laughing.
right.
It's just
And
like
that depends
infectious, right?
on, yeah, and so we all have a certain frequency,
Mhm.
right? That's we're consistent in that way, right? So people who are maybe more melancholy, their frequency is, a little bit lower. People who are super high energetic, and so we all have our frequencies. And then it's like, how do we amplify that
Yeah.
frequency? Right? So you guys are doing amazing. You guys are amplifying your frequency,
Mm.
right? With the media,
Yeah.
with the amount of the people, the stories, and everything that you're doing, you're amplifying that, right? So
Yeah.
at all times, you're trying to figure out, well, how do I amplify it more,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So, and this is maybe just like a life kind of philosophical thing, but I grew up as, in Eastern philosophy. My parents were Buddhist, and
Mhm.
so I grew up in a lot more of that type of thinking. And
Mhm.
so I was more open to, how energy flows and how energy works because, acupuncture and acupressure, it's all about energy flow and how do you, right? So
Yeah.
when we're talking about us as a frequency and how do we make that flow, how do we amplify this signal, right? We want to get this signal as pure as possible, less, no noise. We don't want any noise in our frequency because
Yeah.
that's just like, okay, that doesn't fit in this thing, so that we shouldn't be doing that,
Yeah.
right? So if your signal is super strong, your energy is super strong, now how do you now amplify that,
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of things that we do naturally. We eat good, we exercise, we do all these things that keeps the signal really strong, right?
Mm.
When you're sick, what happens to the signal? Like it
Right.
goes, it's more quiet, right? But then you heal and you're like you go play and you're as a kid, our signals are super strong. The
Mhm.
kids' signals are through the roof. Like, like little kids like running out. Their signal is like they're radiating air. Their signal is like out. That's why we pick up on that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So and I see it in terms of work. It's like, okay, well, if what we're doing has that signal, now how do we now figure out how to amplify it, right? How do we get
Mhm.
that out? Because talking about developers community, like this isn't set up as a regular corporation. Like we're setting up as a DAO, right? Decentralized, organizations, right?
Mhm.
Autonomous organizations and developers, so that we want to look at robotic schools and get the kids coming
Yeah.
through, right? To use this kind of equipment and be able to then be exposed to, okay, what's coming next with this motion thing you're talking about? What kind of craziness are you talking about? Because motion has always been sort of on the on the outskirts, on the outside, because we're focusing on the visual and the
Mhm.
auditory, right? Because that's where our experience level was at. Now we want more immersive because VR just doesn't feel that real,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes it can, like in the racing games and the flight, it can because it's like, okay, cool, but you go into other experiences, but you add motion to that, now
Yeah.
it's on another level, right?
Yeah.
So how do we get the younger generations to start thinking about that kind of stuff? Because
Yeah.
everything that we do as humans is so much around motions, and the problems are because we are not moving.
We've become very static. You're right. We've become
Right.
these static beings, and
Mhm.
human beings, we're not doing a lot of being. We're just um
Yeah.
this is just blowing my mind on a lot of different levels. And I knew it might. I knew it might. And sure enough, here we are. So what's fascinating to me is that like taking a physical state, an emotional state, and finding technology that can fuse, to your point, to amplify the best version of those.
Mhm.
um what are your hopes for this technology, for these concepts that you're curating 5 years from now, Bobby? Where are we at with this? What are we doing with it?
So the way we're thinking about it is we want to work with people in the specific industries,
Mhm.
and we see ourselves as having that tool that anybody can take and go, wow, I've been doing research in this, but I was missing something, and I needed that tool. Well, here's that tool, right? So whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in kids development, whatever industry or vertice or silo, entertainment,
Mhm.
like it can go into all the way, like Apple, for the F1 was like, okay, go to Apple TV and watch the trailer and feel the car on your phone.
Uh,
It was a haptic trailer that Apple released with the F1 movie that just came out.
yeah.
And you go on there and you're like, wow, I feel the car. Well, it's not quite, it's all just kind of simulated. It's not the real type of simulator where you're taking physics and then transferring it and making it,
Right.
right? This is just like, oh, you feel, so it's like the gaming control. But the fact that Apple just opened the door for people to now that
Hmm.
is possible. That shared experience is
Yeah.
possible because
Yeah.
that's a movie, that's motion that's layered into the movie track,
Yeah.
right? So it's part
Yeah.
of it, it's just another track, right?
Yeah.
So entertainment is super interesting because that's home entertainment.
Yeah.
Like we're talking about this thing in your home, and as a home entertainment, it can do at a very basic level, it can rock your baby to sleep. Like you can have
Mm.
the perfect rhythm, and
Mm.
then it can project out the mom's heartbeat, so the
Mm.
baby's like, oh wow, the mom's here, right? So
Mm.
at a very basic level, now you put a
Yeah.
racing sim rig on it, or you do something else on it, it becomes the motion part of the home entertainment,
That's
right?
fascinating to me. I just keep thinking, as you said that, I'm thinking about, I'm editing all the time. And so it's like, well, here's my visual layer, here's my audio layer, here's
Yeah.
my, and like, to have a physical layer, what would that be like?
Yeah, right. But well, on a very basic level, if you think about the audio part, right? When we
Mhm.
go to concerts, we hear the music loud and we hear the vibration. Like, why do
Yeah.
people stand next to the speaker? Because they want to feel it.
Yeah.
So even just from listening to your favorite like album and having some vibration that synced up with that, it would just feel like, wow, and your album would just come alive on a totally different level where your whole body just felt it, right? So just think about how simple that could
Yeah.
be, right?
Yeah.
Now, the other part that we're playing around with, which I think from what I saw just now with ChatGPT 5, I'm like, oh my goodness, we're there. So we've been playing around with having AI create the sequence,
Mm.
right? So, and the first thing that we talk about is ethics and safety because
Yeah.
an AI is now in control of your emotions.
Come again?
So what we did was we gave Grok all the parameters of all the technicals of our unit, so it
Uh-huh.
understands it and it knows how it functions,
Okay.
right? Then we give it the tuning number, so it knows what to tune for, and I mean it's so smart it can distill all that stuff, and it can
Mm.
figure it all out. But we gave it all, so he has like framework and parameters, and then we gave it a prompt. We said, okay, we want this prompt to be energizing at the same time relaxing, right? And it spits out the code for moving
Mm.
the sequence, right? The sequence for this. It's a 20-second loop. And I'm looking at it going like, oh my goodness. I mean, we're in the era of no code for software, right? And of course AI can understand this and do this. So the prompt, it read the prompt and it created the sequence and we got on it and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like,
That's
it's not coming
wild.
from a game. You create it from a prompt, right? So you can say, okay, I have something, I want to relax this area,
Yeah.
create that sequence, and then it creates it, you get on it and it does it, right?
Yeah.
So Louis, who's a founder, he's the engineer guy around this whole thing, and he got on and he's like, wow, this is a cool, and I took a video, I was like, oh wow, it's just a cool little looping sequence, right?
Yeah.
He gets off and I get on, and he goes, I'm gonna amplify, I'm gonna put some more power into it. Within seconds, I couldn't stop laughing. Like I was hysterical. I was like laughing. It's like, oh my God. I couldn't stop. Because of it was giving me the energy. It was like the prompt was like energizing yet relaxing. So I was energized and it was like just all the energy came up to me and I just couldn't stop laughing. I came
That's
off and I was still laughing. Like, how good is that to laugh at that level where you can't control it? It's so amazing, right? You,
yeah.
you want people to do that every day.
That
But
is wild.
so we're just starting to play with this and the reason I brought GPT-5 because I was seeing it do some things where it can create levers and things like that. So you can actually then control
Mm.
how much of a certain motion or whatever you want, right?
Right.
Imagine content creators now start creating motion experiences,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's a Vista 360 camera that has physics in the camera. So when you're taking stuff, it actually has physics. You can actually then transfer that down, and people can start creating 3D experiences that they can share with other people, right? This is
Yeah.
you're talking about a few years down the line, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to take some time for all this to unfold, but just imagine, I mean, content creators already have film studios and the equipment and all that kind of stuff, and they already know how to create experiences because that's if they're good, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now add in the motion component, and all of a sudden you're just like, what? The content creation just went 3D?
That's wild. It's like stepping out, like going from black and white to color, from 2D to 3D, or just like leveling up on this whole other level, this whole other
Yeah.
plane. When you were
Mhm.
mentioning that, though, it kind of made me think about that movie Strange Days. And I'm like, oh no. But I guess
Well,
that's where responsibility and how we use technology and the
mhm,
like you were mentioning before about the ethics about how we incorporate this knowledge and
right.
this capacity to expand on these different levels. It's so important, yeah?
Super important, right? I mean, it's the same thing they're dealing with all the humanoids and the robotic side,
Yeah.
right? Because yeah, if it wants to go crazy, what would make it go crazy? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not pessimistic. I'm very optimistic around this because
Mm-hmm.
it's in our hands to
Yeah.
relinquish that control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in our situation, of course, it's all for good.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're gonna we already do, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
platform already has um, um, things that we put in place so it doesn't go past where we've gone past and
Mm-hmm.
saw the potential danger.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we've already the framework is in there, the rail guards are in there, and so it's safe,
Mm-hmm.
and it has to be, right? Because
Yeah.
right now that it's more industrial because it's a dev kit. We want people to do something with it and build with
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and experience it and learn from it, right? But the next version for the home is going to be, where you look at it and like, wow, that fits in
Yeah.
the home, right?
Yeah.
This fits in the man cave or the garage,
Mm-hmm.
but it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's very industrial, right? So,
Uh-huh.
when you talk about 5 years, I can see that we're partnering up with all these different research groups that
Mm-hmm.
have done amazing things that then we can just upgrade their equipment,
Yeah.
right?
All right.
So I see all these collaborations and partnerships, and they're all part of the developers community so that we can share in some of these insights, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're building this so it's it's open source format so that people can build on top of it, right?
Yeah.
And they can readily use this type of thing, and within our community we'll determine the people who come up with it. They can say, yeah, I want
Mm-hmm.
it open source. Great, then we'll help distribute things that our community builds,
Yeah.
right? So you can see
Yeah.
that this ecosystem is just going to be amazing, right? And so
Yeah.
for me to be able to be involved in to push all these different vertices and
Yeah.
verticals and industries, that's to me like super exciting, right? Because you do
Absolutely.
one thing all the time and it's like, okay, all right, I got that. But if you're able to go, wow, today I get to work with neuroscience, or today I'm working with high performance athletes, and like, yeah, well, guess what? I'm learning some things from here that applies here, and we can accelerate the training and stuff.
Right.
You,
Right.
my personal angle from ever since I grew up was always about like high performance, human performance,
Yeah.
because I see that driving everything else.
Yeah.
Very similar to how like automobile industry, right? If they have a F1 car, the rest of the line benefits from it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, the brands that don't have the high performance, they don't have high performance cars, right? But the ones that do, it all transfers. So I grew up playing sports, and I was always trying to figure out how to accelerate the learning because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like I was always behind. I started sports late, or I didn't have the advantage. So I was always trying to figure out, okay, how do I gain that advantage?
Yeah.
How do I get that, right? And so for me, like looking at this kind of stuff is like, oh my goodness, like this
Yeah.
like on so many different, like I started thinking about recovery,
Yeah.
right now it's a hot topic because there's so much stress,
Yeah.
right? So um, we had an interesting conversation with one of the top sound vibration frequency guys in LA, Jeffrey Thompson, right?
Okay.
What he said, because he's been doing this for 40 years, so he has all these different things, and
Yeah.
he has one of the most advanced heart rate variability monitors, right? So it sees when when you're synced up, when your frequency is pure.
Hmm.
He can test that. So what he was telling us, like we all have in the zero gravity position, and everybody's slightly different. The angles could be slightly different, but if you can find that position for somebody, which he uses the heart rate variability monitor to find, because
Hmm.
once he moves everything in the right spot, it just shows on the screen. It goes bzzz, signal clear, right? It's like
Wow.
cohesion. Then when you do that, what you do is you're actually resetting your stress. You're going to you're resetting your parasympathetic and your sympathetic,
Mm.
right? So when you reset that, you're basically resetting your stress level.
Wow.
So when you get in that position,
Yeah.
you can bring whatever stress somebody have, you can actually bring that, because what happens with stress is like if it's constant and you have it's like these gamers 12 hours a day, well, guess what? They're piling, it could be small little stress, but they're compounding that stress over time. That's
Hmm.
why they burn out. That's why they're physically just, there's a lot of things that, it builds up over time.
Hmm.
Now, if you say, okay, after your 12-hour session, you go out, you go and reset. So now you bring your stress back down to zero. You're
Hmm.
resetting you're going to homeostasis, right? You're going to that state of like,
Mm.
now go and start your recovery.
Yeah.
You take a person coming off like a football field, right? It's physical stress, mental stress.
Yeah.
How are you gonna, and they sustain injury, how are you gonna recover if you can't if you reset on your stress, now you recover, that's a massive difference.
Yeah.
Because you're not trying to fight that stress, because you're trying to fight that stress to recover, right? So
Hmm.
you're trying to bring that stress down, but you're trying to recover at the same time. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are going on, but if you can reset the stress, now the body goes, wow, I can send everything to recovery. I don't have to
Mm.
fight that stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recovery just completely changed.
Yeah. I mean, I can see how, and on the recovery side of things too, I think, again, just thinking like to the disabilities communities, I mean, of course, there's invisible disabilities, but there's so much like physical disability as well, where I feel like technology like this, like what you're suggesting, proposing, creating, developing right now, really could be such a hope for those in the disability community who feel like they don't have, they're limited by their physicality, and to be able to introduce technology that could help to level that out,
Yes.
give an opportunity
Yes.
to experience that side, because they can be all mental up here and get that to an okay spot, but to be able to bring up that physical and like find some balance there.
Hmm. Well, you're touching on the full equation, right? Because
Yeah.
the physical part has been not neglected, because there are physical therapists in
Mm-hmm.
facilities, and so people are trying to do things.
Mm-hmm.
But now imagine giving them another tool to go, okay, now what are you going to do with this,
Yeah.
right? Because the one thing, as we're putting together this presentation for this motion equals emotion, what I found was there was this pocket of research done, and that's when the VR came out,
Uh,
right? So all around the world, I see all these science papers using the VR for treating things like phobias, like a spider thing. So they'll create something, and it's not real, but they get used to it, so they start to, be more comfortable. So
uh,
they're using the
uh,
VR and creating scenarios for people to help them mentally, right?
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I mean, it's like, because it was a new tool,
Mm-hmm.
everybody took it and did something with it. And so you have this like breadth of research paper. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm not a research paper kind of person. I don't get into that kind of stuff. But I saw this and I was like, something happened here.
Mhm.
And I read a bunch. And I was like, oh wow, they're all kind of dabbling in the same kind of thing, but what they're missing is the motion.
Mhm.
So like, oh my goodness, we're gonna be the next tool that they're gonna be able to couple, and they're gonna be like, wow, this was the thing that we're missing because this is the motion component part that is gonna train the actual motion component part,
Yeah. Because that's
right?
wild, right? To be able to see it, be able to hear it, but now feel it.
Yeah, right. In when we're talking about the equation part, yes, let's level up the physical part. Well,
Mhm.
the mental part is just, and that's the stress part,
Mhm.
right? So when I'm looking at all your causes, I was like, wow, I wonder how much stress is built up over time because of that situation, right?
Mhm.
Does it become chronic?
Yeah.
Because when chronic, that's disease, right?
Mhm.
It's chronic stress. It's your body goes, I can't deal with that anymore. I'm done. I can't fight that anymore. And that's when things start spiraling, right?
Mhm.
If you take away that and let your immune system start to kick back up and deal with things. So is there stress there mentally? Because the mental part is huge, right?
Yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
massive.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
uh, um, I was talking about playing sports, right? And I played golf and I was like, whatever, golfer. I hacked it around this 13 handicap, and I read a mental book. And next time I went out and played, I shot a one under, which is like you don't do that when you're a hacker, you don't shoot a one under, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, it was all mental. It was nothing about the physical part. So that's where I see the mental side.
Mhm.
Also, we're talking about all this is it's all together, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of the causes and things, there's a lot of mental baggage
Oh.
or mental disturbance, like the signal, their signals are being disturbed,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So how do we clear that out? How do we,
Yeah.
clear out that noise for people in
Yeah.
general?
For
But
sure.
yeah, that's where it comes down to, right?
That's where, yeah, where I'm super geeking out right now because just to figure out like all these different use cases, like every case is a use case for this specific kind of technology, these concepts that you're introducing. Because if you think about like alteration or deterioration of someone's physicality, that will always 100% translate to the mental side of things
Mhm.
without exception. And so if we can find a way to tap into that here, and then that in turn works with the physical side of it, like there's so much that's possible, so many different ways to tap in to
Right.
these intricate systems that we call ourselves. And this just is blowing my mind. I knew it would.
Well, what's going to be really interesting is and this is a bit of a call to action, right? Because
Mhm.
everybody who's watching this is going to see like, oh wow, there's a lot of potential. And if there's people that understand, because I look at game developers because they understand um, how to put things together, right? So if you're a VR person, you need a game developer to put that scenario together. And you need a game developer in general just to create that experience, right? So
Right.
I was like, wow, there's a whole field of people that could take this and create experiences. So this is a bit of a call to action. It's like everyone who's watching this, if there's an
Yeah.
opportunity for whatever they're doing or whatever their silo or industry they're in,
Yeah.
like this is an opportunity to upgrade your equipment, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, our dev kit is actually quite affordable compared to the things that are out there
Mm-hmm.
because of how we thought about it and how we developed it, right? And
Right.
how we sourced it and how we're manufacturing it.
Yes.
So in essence, we're coming up with this like super advanced tech at even a better price. So you're just like, oh my goodness, this is. I mean, it costs as much as like a desktop computer.
Right.
$500, and now you have this thing that you can do all kinds of different things with. So it's like I'm really curious to the people who are like tinkerers at home
Mhm.
that have something, or they have a purpose. They're like they have a cause or a certain type of thing that they want to solve, right?
Mhm.
They come out of the woodworks. Those are the ones that you're just gonna be
Yeah.
like, whoa, where did that come from, right? Because
Yeah.
when you start to get, the community start to work,
Yeah.
there's ones that just come out of nowhere. It's like the guy who won the X Prize came out of nowhere. Nobody, the X Prize was the $10 million, the first spaceship that can go intergalactic.
Mhm.
Um, Rutan is his last name, I think it is. Bert Rutan, I think is. He came out of nowhere. Nobody, it was like, who is this guy? He basically built this in a warehouse garage, and he was totally stealth. And then Richard Branson buys the winner to be the Virgin Galactic mobile, right? The flight, right?
Mhm.
So, and it happens in history like that, right? So,
Yeah.
how many people are out there that like it's just a personal, like, I want to solve this ALS. I want to solve this. I
Yeah.
want to solve this particular problem. Whatever it is, I mean, we're gonna see an explosion. That's how
Yeah.
we see it, and
Yeah.
that's how we want to set it up so that that can happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We're
And
not.
so at first, when we were entering this conversation, I was thinking, oh, it's this new tech. And now, after we're speaking, I'm thinking, no, this is a new tool.
Yeah,
This is this revolutionary tool, and how will you use it?
yeah,
You know?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and this tool never existed because the people who were doing the sim racing, they were just so focused on the sim racing that they wouldn't even think that this platform can do other things.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that, oh, we're the only ones. We're just exposing to everybody who even in the sim, other sims,
Hmm.
say, hey, listen, you, like maybe you want to buy our equipment and upgrade your equipment so that you can, now, have a better
Do it
piece of
even
equipment,
better.
right?
Yeah.
So that's the way we see ourselves. Is like we're coming in as collaborators and partners
Yeah.
and bringing this new piece of equipment, right? So
Yeah.
it's not we're not there's none of that. Like we gotta protect everything. No, it's like no. What are you working on? And every person that I have a conversation with, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to connect. How can this benefit them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm in a plane with a rower, Ivy League rower. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could definitely put a hole on our platform, and then if you're training with a balance point of that width, why don't we train you at that width so you and your partner are now challenged, and when you get in your boat,
Yeah.
it's gonna feel like a catamaran.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
No,
like,
for
oh my
sure.
goodness, are you kidding? It's like endless amounts of different things and that's just me kind of like, throwing out a few ideas. Like all of a sudden you get,
Yeah.
people around this and thinking about it and going, what else? What
Yeah.
else?
Well, and
Right?
it's when you think about the fact, like, what do we all have in common? We all are, having this human experience. We have these bodies. Well, what can we do with? And so we've for so long focused on what we see, what we hear, but what if we were to bring in the whole body, like the full experience, the physical experience, that motion,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And to give that proper space at the table to say, let's
Yeah.
explore that. So where you have this like physical immersion, like meeting that, like what could that ignite emotionally
Yeah.
and and mentally. And so I think it's the work you're doing is fascinating. I'm excited to see where it goes. Um, I've got like 50,072 questions I would love to ask you, but I've got your email. So, but for today, for this conversation, do you have anything closing that you would like to share? Because I'm just, again, blown away already by what you've shared.
Well, I want to share one thing it's in our pipeline,
Hmm.
and it ties into this amazing because right now platform is an output platform, right? It outputs frequencies. What we have coming probably next year, beginning next year, something like that, it's called forward kinematics. And it's going to allow the platform to then sense input. So it's going to have a feedback mechanism. And that's when you're talking about like training people or getting, like it'll have that component where you're you're picking up, and it's not through any other camera sensor, it's through the platform itself. It's through how all the physics and how the algorithm for the physics is, and how we're able to then pick up the mass that's on top of there. So that's, yeah, that is going to be just I mean, see, most of the time people come up with a product. We're coming up with a product, a development kit, but we also have all the stuff coming down the pipeline that's going to enhance this tool, right? So when people are looking to, like, especially people who are in training, they're going to get it. They're going to get that feedback part. So it's forward kinematics, be like, oh yeah, that's can we have that now? Right? So that's coming down the pipeline, which makes it even more interesting for people to jump on, because we're at the beginning stages, right? So
well, absolutely, because I mean, when you talk about like just feedback in general, I mean, that's how we get better. That's how we evolve. I give a speech, someone gives me their feedback about what they thought.
Yeah.
Oh, now I can do it better. Oh, I didn't realize that. So
Yeah.
all of this information that comes just from that feedback loop being closed and not being just left open-ended,
Yes.
what a huge value that is. And I'm going to put you in touch with my neurologist, who's brilliant, but he needs to know you so he can fix my brain. Oh my goodness. Bobby, this has been such an incredible pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing this time, for sharing your story. I'm beyond excited to follow the journey that you are on and that you've invited all of us to be on.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
No, I thank you, because it's like we were talking about before, your signal is strong and you're amplifying it. And I want the people who are recipients of that information to feel free to reach out to us,
Awesome.
LinkedIn, whatever, wherever, you can find it, just reach out to us. If you have something you want to do or thinking about, like, I'm open for conversations, because that's where we're going to be able to progress this, and through your amplification and getting it out, and all the people that you're talking about is like, it's so related. We're all on the same, there's no resistance. Everything is flowing. The frequency is flowing, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
thank you for doing what you're doing.
I am just, again, just so honored, and I love how you brought up, like, we're here to collaborate, because we are in a time in our humanity, there is no room for competition, only for collaboration. Like, we have to come together to figure some really big stuff out. And I feel like it's not only what you're creating and what you're developing, but how and why that you're doing it is really a good lesson for all of us to learn, and a practice for us all to model in whatever industry we're in. So
well, this is the new business model.
Yeah.
The business model has evolved to this, right? And it's accelerated. So if you're in any business, you have to start focusing on flipping or pivoting to something more like this, because you'll become more relevant.
Yeah.
Right? That's the part. If you don't, you lose your relevancy, and you don't want that as a company. You always want to be, and once you build a community, then you can, service them and interact and do different things with them, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't have anything better than that. That's amazing. Like, these are the people you get to interact with in your business. Oh my goodness, this is amazing.
It is amazing. A community is everything. I am thankful to have you part of our community, Bobby.
Yes. Let me know if there's anything else, anything else that comes up, you need, we want to talk about some type of thing. We're always open.
All right. Remember, you asked, so get ready, because I've got some things. Thank you again for taking this time. Thank you for helping all of us become a bit more aware now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.